Hey
Hi,
everybody. How you doing, Karen?
doing good. I work today.
Oh yeah, doing what? Like
Oh,
just
retail.
job work or
Just retail.
what store is it again?
Adore clothing.
It's still open? Like
Yeah,
during the pandemic
for
kind of
now.
thing?
Well, whenever the non-essential businesses close down, um that's when we're at home. But when they open, that's when we're open.
That sounds pretty good. Is it busy though or
Not as busy as the first time we opened after the shutdown. It's a lot more slower, but I think it's because people are not um either they're not getting the unemployment like stimulus thing,
yeah.
or people are just not bringing their family out because they're in school.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. I suspect it's more people don't have the $1,200 in their pocket anymore, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. When they had that, I was like, why is everybody out right now?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It was busier than usual, but it's fine.
yeah. Yeah. So then what? Like do you get unemployment then when you guys are like otherwise or
Yeah, we're able to collect unemployment when we're not working, but it's not that great. So
Yeah, plus you have to like, go through that whole application process too. So
it's not as bad as it was in April though.
Yeah, April, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't even like log in. I was getting so irritated,
At least I got it figured out.
but it's fine.
Yeah. What about you, Levi? Levi, is the factory closed still?
Oh,
Or
they're
you're not working?
open. They've
No,
been
it is not.
open. They've been
It's
all open.
it is open or it's not open?
It's not
No.
closed, so it is open.
Oh. How many a lot of people going or
Not really. I think this time people were slow to come back. The
yeah, we'll
first
call it the
time,
Karen theory, right?
Oh,
the first time they were fast to come back. 'Cause there's more help for the
Because
benefits.
of the
There's
bread,
more,
right? Everyone
yeah.
wanted the bread.
Their income is a bit more expendable. They're leaning towards more normal goods than inferior goods. I think just because of
Yeah.
the extra help or the income. Now it's more of a loss. Those are not people are not getting as much support as
Yeah.
before.
yeah.
It's kind of driving down their consumption, especially their perception of consumption beforehand,
Yeah.
and now it's just at a declining rate. So we
Like,
can
is the
see that.
restaurant like, but is the restaurant like also redistributing how people do their jobs? Like, does Sky still have her job, or does Sky still work there?
She works there here and there.
Okay,
Yes, they have cut down the staff to match the
that's what I
occupancy,
mean.
but it's
Yeah,
it's but they didn't have to lay them off because most of the
yeah.
staff left by themselves anyways.
Mm,
Because
okay.
there's a better opportunity somewhere else that won't get their jobs cut
Yeah,
during a big time like this, like Home Depot, for example. Like they're going to be around. We're going lockdown again. They're going to stay open, so that's why they would go to those more jobs. It's just kind of this natural migration of labor towards those markets, while this one has just been kind of slow to come back. The good thing is for management, they won't have to worry about having to lay them off or anything like that because it just happens naturally, along with the income being slower this time. So
yeah. Well, I guess
that's
we'll see
kind of
how
where
the
we're at.
fall is, right? Because the fall is where, like, we're gonna see. So this is the point for today's lecture. Just to lead up to this is I've been thinking about this all day today. So I've been thinking about the lecture during the week. Usually I make the lecture on Monday night, so I've got like all the news that I can get. But I didn't make it last night because I was working on something else, and so I made it today. And I was thinking exactly kind of like the question I asked Karen, the question I kind of asked you, Levi, which is this whole issue is like, back in March and April, right? It was that sudden kind of like shutdown of the economy. Yeah, things got like really bad really fast, and then they got like back to almost normal again in terms of like retail kinds of things, right? Like once everyone started going back to work, like in May. Um, and largely, right, and we can debate about why that was, right? Maybe people being cooped up. But the other idea was, well, maybe it was because, and in my kind of theory would be, okay, interest rates are now even lower and everyone's got $1,200 in their pocket, right? So people are just spending more money, whether it be at Home Depot because interest rates are low, or is it at the factory because, right, they haven't been out to eat for a long time and they've got this money to spend. But, the other issue to this all is, what are people going to do in October, November, December, and January? Because the issue there is going to be the news that I kind of made the lecture around today, which was, and I'm not trying to be political about it, but it was, if you remember last week, I was talking about stimulus, right? And that the risk is it going to be that the Federal Reserve, we already know it's stimulating the economy, but they have to try to anticipate, is the is the federal government going to engage in fiscal policy, right? And so there's kind of uncertainty, right? And that's kind of going through those scenarios, right? Does Biden win, but the Republicans take the House and Senate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Like all those different variations. But now, this afternoon, well, late this morning Hawaii time, we actually got clarity, at least for the next next 4 months, that October, November, December, and January are going to have absolutely no fiscal policy, right? So the news that was announced was that Mnuchin, who's the Treasury Secretary, decided to not to stop negotiations. So they're not going to do any fiscal policy, and so now we know. And so the result of that is that
I was reading this in the news today too.
yeah. So I mean, so right, it's not like, yes, it is political. I mean, there's certainly a political angle to it, but for the markets, it does provide a lot more clarity about what's going on. And the way that it does right would be that if we look at what how the markets are for the futures, well, Dow, even the Nasdaq is basically flat, as is the S&P futures. So things are relatively flat. Yet if we look at where things are actively trading right now, well, at least we'll see it here, right? I mean, at least in this kind of dumpy article here. We're going to see that basically futures are going to be lower tomorrow. The markets are going to at least open lower on Wednesday because of the unexpected result that things are going to, there's not going to be any talk until January. And so unless, right, I mean, there's the only way that this ends differently would be is if Trump wins and the Republicans take the Senate and, let's say, even the House again. But if Republicans take the Senate and they win the presidency, then maybe in November, then we start to get the stimulus talks again. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen until January with almost any of the other scenarios, because then a whole bunch of people are getting kicked out of office. New people come in, but new people can't do anything yet until they're in power.
Can I add something on like the House and Senate
Which
thing? I don't want to make
this. Can you guys all see my screen? Yeah.
The House numbers currently, if you're like worried about flipping either way, currently the House is 232 seats Democratic and 197 Republican. So that would need a big shift to turn red. And in the Senate, it's 53 Republican to 47. Democrat. So that's a smaller shift needed to turn blue.
But what are the, because you follow up, you keep up on politics quite a bit. Who is slated to be the weakest candidates in the Senate that are up for re-election? Do we know? The one I hear about is Susan Collins.
Suzanne Collins,
man.
Lindsey Graham, Mitch
Mhm.
McConnell, Lisa Murkowski. But that's like, I think I said 4 or 5 names, but that would already constitute a flip of majority if they lost.
Yeah. Jeez,
And I'm pretty sure.
it's so hard to, predict this all, right? Because, again, markets, economists love certainty. So it's not that they dislike Trump. They dislike the uncertainty that's associated with him. So that's an important kind of difference to note there, right? It's not that, I do, but it's an independent of this, right? My feelings about Trump are my own feelings. I'm not a big fan of him, just even personally. But really, where it comes down to for me is you just can't, right? In the classic way you do this, you can actually predict what's going to happen a little bit better. And with, I don't see.
All right, so here's the thought I was having. So when Trump first got diagnosed for COVID, right, and that was before the announcement that Trump is going to put off the negotiations on the stimulus, so therefore fiscal policy today, was the markets dropping in response to Trump's diagnosis because they were feeling like this uncertainty that fiscal policy was guaranteed not to happen? Like that was becoming more likely. And then now that this happened, it's like sealed the deal. Like, okay, this is exactly what we thought would happen. Are these two connected, or is it?
Well, they are kind of connected, right? The sense of things is that the uncertainty that existed when Trump got sick was, okay, we know the guy isn't going to tell us the truth. How sick is he really, right? Are we going to get, is he going to die, but he's going to say, oh, I'm just fine? What's going on? And then you get a sense of it, right, of how, right, at least that he portrays that he's healthy and now he's home. So the market's kind of calmed down about that. But then, again, the kind of sense here is that they throw something else in the room, right? He throws something else in there and says, oh, things are going to, now I'm just not going to talk to negotiators anymore. And so here on Bloomberg, can everyone see my screen? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So exactly here on Bloomberg, at least on the iPad version, top news is spurned, right? It's this idea that I don't think I think the markets are properly estimating this. I just don't think that others are properly estimating just how precarious things are. And if anything, that's what I want to talk about in today's lecture is just how precarious things are. Now, I haven't clicked on this, but I'm just going to click on this now, just in real time. So the whole idea of Daybreak is that when you open up your Bloomberg terminal, this would be kind of like the first things that you see. Which I guess in this case would be if we live in Dubai. So let's say that we live in Dubai. And this is exactly, when you log into Bloomberg in the morning, one of the first things I read is Daybreak, because it's supposed to give you a sense of like how the market is performing that day, what's going to happen that day. And that's exactly what's happening here. And if I,
Hey, Scheiding, was there any news today? Was there any news today at the end of the trading day?
Well,
the last hour?
Well, that was this. This really did come out in the last, if my memory serves me right, this came out about 9 o'clock.
Yeah, because right at 9,
right
at 9, the market sold off pretty
heavily. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, and that's exactly what this was. So it was unexpected. And I'm sure if you're looking at a line graph, it shows a pretty strong downward
Yeah.
movement at about
Yeah.
the 9 o'clock hour, the last hour of trading. And it's
Yep.
exactly for what's in this quote right here. Too little support would lead to a weak recovery, creating unnecessary hardship for households and businesses. And that's exactly what's starting to happen here, is that the markets are starting to think that we like went in with like this big bazooka back in like March and April and like stimulated the fuck out of the economy, and then all of a sudden we're stuck in like October. Everyone's like money has run. For you, those of you,
Stagnating.
Levi, are you still getting the like the partial unemployment?
No, I don't want to expend everything. So I'm just, as long as I can get an extra on it, I take it. If I can't, then I just work and make money. Because I make money working more anyway.
Does anyone know, is the $300, has it run out yet? The extra 300?
I heard
Does
they
anyone know?
approved it, but they didn't put it in like the
I heard it doesn't
Same.
disperse until October, like sometime this month.
Oh, I see. So it hasn't even come out yet. Well, what's the point of that, right? Like,
Yeah.
to stimulate the economy, it doesn't come out for a while. But even that money, that $300, is running out. So then everyone's just stuck with standard unemployment insurance, which standard unemployment insurance, right, is limited. Even if you're a person like myself, it would be limited to like $400 or $500 a week. Dude, I can't even like. It'd be tough for me to live on $400 or $500 a week, right? And the whole point of why March and April wasn't so bad was everyone got that plus the $600 a week plus, right, the $1,200 one-time payment. So it basically replaced everything. And now we're sitting in October. All the politicians are fighting with each other. The Federal Reserve is still stimulating the economy from the monetary policy side, but the fiscal side has just fallen off. And that's exactly what you see here kind of in this first paragraph, that the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, is saying, spend more money, government. Pelosi is saying, yeah, dude, we want to spend $2.2 trillion, right? That would be the Democrats on the House, that, you know, they control the House. And it looks like the White House is saying 1.6. I don't know, dude. If I were looking at that, I would look at the difference of 0.6 between the two and just say, let's just fucking call it even, right? And just, you know, go home at the end of the day. I don't know what the difference is between the two, but I think everyone, in my opinion, just needs to get off their thing. But no, exactly this, right? So then the S&P, I mean, the markets are just going to be down tomorrow. You're just going to have weakness in the markets tomorrow. And let's just see here. I'm just looking at this for the first time. What's coming out today? FOMC minutes are coming out.
Chatting, what was that? That map above it said autonomy. It's talking about autonomy.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I think this is talking about. I think this is autonomy of the central banks. So this is saying that the central bank in the United States is not as independent as it used to be. That's pretty sad. That's pretty bad. Wow, that's a really depressing map.
And there was one above it too that looked interesting.
This one?
Not that one. That it was the coronavirus cases.
Oh yeah. India is quickly catching up, but just remember, U.S. has I don't remember how much of the world's population. Something like
How much of the world's population? What, Shadi?
Lives in the United States.
It's between 3 and 3.5. I think it's like
3.1. Yeah.
3 and a quarter.
Yeah, but we have like 20% of the cases or something like that, and obviously we're in the lead. No, so but this is exactly what I want to deal with here. And it's not just the United States. I mean, Europe, they're talking about it a little bit as well. But if I go to my slides here, I want to start by looking at this forecast. So in this forecast, we can see here just what on the central bank side. So gray is what actually the numbers are. The yellow is what's being forecast for the future. You know, we don't know what the GDP is yet. But what we know is that we're just going to see, if we look at it from a GDP perspective, we have the dramatic fall off in second quarter of 2020, somewhat of an increase in third quarter of 2020. But then look at what happens. And this is what I want you to look at particularly. Look at first quarter of 2021. It's negative. And it's negative in part because, right, you've just got monetary stimulus. You don't have fiscal stimulus. And if you look at the rate of decline in the unemployment rate, that rate of decline in the unemployment rate in 2021 is slowing down. And in terms of prices, you're seeing that somewhat increase in the prices. But look at the federal funds rate. The federal funds rate is kind of staying where it is. So monetary policy has done all it can, is what we're really saying here when we look at this data. And this is the big picture. Go on, yeah, go on.
What's the difference between fiscal stimulation and monetary stimulation?
Right. So, right, in this case, right, Federal Reserve has already done what it can, right? Is that the money supply went up
You're talking about
February.
when you say money supply, you talk about front money they printed.
Exactly.
Okay.
So in this case, right, if we look at interest rate, which is the price of money on the y-axis, quantity of money on the x-axis, the supply is fixed because the central bank determines it. The demand is here. And that basically what the Federal Reserve did in February and March is that it increased the supply of money, lowered the interest rate, and we increased the level of consumers using that money, right? So this goes back to this idea that I was kind of talking about last week, which was, well, actually, I don't need to, actually, I'm going to go to this. A perfect article in a newspaper would be from the Star Advertiser for today. Which was towards the top of the news, I think. Thought it was on the top of the news. Give me a second. Oh, here it is, right here. So it's this whole idea that how can during a pandemic home prices surge to the second consecutive monthly record, right? That even in shitty Kapolei, people must be buying houses, right? Looking desirously at town from Kapolei.
Yes. Shining, there was my best friend Henry's a realtor, and he had a client that bid $840,000 on a $795,000 home in Kapolei Knolls, and the guy didn't get it. So multiple people outbid him. So it was already $45,000 over asking price.
How big was the house?
I don't know the exact square footage, but it was in Kapolei Knolls, so it was a decent sized house for a while.
Well, so that's what this article is kind of saying. So I've already read this article. What this was saying is that you've got really cheap money, right? So interest rates are really low. People are spending a lot of time at home and realizing, wow, I really live in a shitty house. I need something a little bit bigger. And, they're looking around, they're saying they need something bigger, and they're going out and they're buying something. But they're buying bigger houses, not smaller houses, right? So that might be in part the push towards the west side, right? Which typically people would say, I don't want to drive into town. But now if their job has become virtual, right, then they can be like, yeah, I can totally live in Kapolei, right? Or maybe they're hoping that rail comes in. I mean, look at this. So read this part here. Sale volume surges. We're on the upper end of the market price-wise. 39% more sales between 700,000 and 1.49 million. 43% more sales for homes that are over 1.5 million. Sale volume dropped 36% for the cheap, shitty houses that cost under $700,000. I don't know. So it's certainly shifting the market a little bit, right? And then that means that, what are these people going to do, right? They can't afford to buy the house. Where are they going to get stuck, right? Are they going to get stuck in a condo? Do they get stuck renting forever? But part of it too is this idea of the inventory. Until people say, fuck it, I'm just going to leave the islands, like we're kind of like this, we're just circling around here, kind of waiting for things. And again, like I closed on a house and my wife tells me that like 10 people took a tour of our house, even though we're in escrow. So like, even if when a house is in escrow, that basically means the buyers, in this case, my wife and I, are like, put down the money, we're, looking under the wood and making sure there's no bugs, that kind of thing. But for someone to take a house tour, you're like expecting that maybe the people are going to just, not come through. I don't know.
I've
So,
never heard that.
Or go on.
I've never heard of a house being in escrow and then people still taking tours of it.
Exactly.
That doesn't even sound ethical to me from a real estate
It's
perspective.
ethical because you could always get people.
Find out.
Do you want to say hi, Truman? Here, just wait. Truman wants to say hi. Let's see here. There you are. Say hi. We're in San Francisco. Look.
Hello, Truman.
He said, "You right here." Okay, Levi.
Is that Truman?
Hello, Truman. I've been
Yeah,
expecting
see,
you.
there's Russell.
Hi,
see,
Truman.
there's the whole class.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay.
The future of the economy
Truman,
is in your
looks like
hands,
you.
Hey,
Truman.
Truman, go and eat the fancy macaroni and cheese I made downstairs.
Oh, okay.
White cheese cheddar. Ooh,
Yes,
white
Truman.
cheese cheddar
Eat that
macaroni
mac and cheese.
That's
The future
right.
of the economy is in your hands.
That's right. Okay, so let's go back to.
Well, here's my thoughts on that article you just showed me.
Okay.
So
you're a
basically,
homeowner,
obviously,
right?
the money supply has increased. The interest rates have gone down. So these people are now suddenly realizing, hey, I can get these fixed interest rate large loans, and it won't cost me that much money to borrow that money. And that could be a reason why we are seeing a shift upwards.
But you're a homeowner, right? Are you realizing, like, is your house big enough, you think?
Well, I guess that would be a special case because I didn't exactly buy the house per
Right.
se.
I guess
I
you
more
didn't
like
exactly,
inherited
yeah.
it. Yeah, I more
Right,
inherited
right.
it. If it was really up to me, I wouldn't be a house owner right now. At least not yet.
Yeah.
Why is that, Levi?
Well,
It's cheaper, right? It'd be cheaper to just rent.
Yes, the market is pretty well. It could get better later on, I feel like, or there could be some kind of like crash or bubble bursting. I feel like it's gonna happen, but that's just kind of my instinct on that. But the main reason why I think like that is just more of a life circumstance sort of thing. I don't think I'm just ready to put on that kind of a liability over my head.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a
I'd rather just lease for now, and then because once you have a mortgage, you're just stuck. You know, you're just stuck with it, and
yeah, that's how I
unless
feel.
you're gonna monetize it through other
Yeah.
renters, I mean, like, it's just not financially a good deal at this point in my life. But I just had to do it because of other circumstances out of my control.
Blame your dad. Okay, so here's the two things I want to, when I was making this lecture, these are the two things that I see as the big consequences to delay. Why is delaying fiscal stimulus such a bad thing? Why can't we just wait till January when we potentially have different politicians in office and then just take care of it then? And the reason why we can't is that even if we just wait till the end of the fourth quarter, which is what October, November, December represents, already we're going to subtract 5 percentage points from growth. Growth is going to be 5% lower in the fourth quarter because unemployment benefits are going to run out and small business aid isn't occurring, right? There's no small business loan. There's no additional small business loans. All of that's running out. And so, right, I mean, some people are kind of, and this is now the third bullet point here, some people are just saying, well, it's all going to be better. Once we get a vaccine, everything's going to go back to normal. But that's not necessarily the case either. And the reason why that's not the case is because the jobs that are being lost right now, some are going to come back, but some are not. And the other part of the problem is that old people are going to leave the market, right? Because they're either going to get, retire, or they're going to die, or right, they're going to, die of COVID. Something's going to happen where they're going to leave the market. And as they leave the market, and the other news that came out today would be if all the restrictions on immigration that Trump proposed do go through, then you've got a labor market that doesn't have enough workers in it, which means then that workers are very expensive, which leads us all.
What did he propose, Shadi?
For the immigration part? The immigration part, the immigration part was that H-1B visas, which are the visas that we give to non-U.S. citizens who have a higher degree or professional training. So we allow those individuals to come and work in the United States. And basically what Trump proposed today was that in addition to everything else that's been proposed, was that if you hire an H-1B worker, you have to pay them a really high amount of money, right? So it's going to basically put a really high price floor on it. And by putting that high price floor on it, you're basically going to incentivize a firm to hire a local worker, right? As opposed to but since it is a free market, it's not likely that there's that much of a differential between the two. Between a domestic worker versus a H-1B worker.
Trump did it on purpose to try to keep the employees as American as possible, as opposed to companies hiring non-citizens.
Right, exactly. So, so we're seeing all this here. So we see that one of the consequences here then of this constant delay is that it makes the recovery more precarious, right? Because we're at a point then where all of the stimulus that helped us in the second quarter not be so bad has all disappeared. And what it does, right, if we look at all these, we start to list all these things here. What do the Democrats want? What do the Republicans want? So I got this all from Bloomberg today as I was just kind of looking at it. So what does Trump want? Trump wants to say that you get only $200 a month extra, and he wants to shorten the time that it's available. Whereas the Democrats want to increase the additional amount, lengthen the time, but then also, which is also, I think, probably the sticking point, is they want to give subsidies to local economies. So they want to give stimulus to state and local governments, whereas Trump is quite opposed to that. So for someone like myself, who's a state employee, some people are really, so things are like precarious. We don't exactly know what's going to happen for a state employee like myself because, right, Hawaii doesn't have any money, right? Hawaii has to have a balanced budget, but the University of Hawaii system is going to get, I think, about $1.1 billion less than it otherwise would. And so the question then really becomes, okay, why don't we just cut everyone's wages? Well, the workers who they could cut their wages or cut their hours, they already have. So like deans, chancellors, the executives, the administration within each university has already taken a pay cut, but someone like myself has not. And the reason why I haven't been subjected to it is because it's a long process, because the state has to negotiate with the university, which has to negotiate with the union, and they have to all come to an agreement about something. And no one wants to engage in that long process because let's say that Biden wins and the Democrats take both the House and the Senate, then it's likely that a state like Hawaii will just get like a $1.1 billion check, right? And then that will make things not so bad anymore, right? Whereas if Trump wins and at least the House or the Senate goes Republican, then, right, then it'll just be like, forget about it, or however they say that in New York, right? Because Hawaii's not going to get it, and then, right, then we'll just go to, state employees being on furlough. But you can easily say, okay, so we just wait till November. But it's a shitty thing to have to wait 1 month just to find out the result. And then even if it does go, let's say, all Democratic, you still have to wait then 2 more months, right, for it to go, for the people to actually come into office. So like, that's just a long time for an economy to have uncertainty. And that's what we have going on right now. So the only way we can do this, this is the cool part about Bloomberg. So Bloomberg creates these heat maps that allow us to look at more frequent data items that give us a sense of how the economy is performing. So parts of this are about the virus, right? And if we look at the virus, and this is going forward in time, if we look at this and go forward in time, we can see the virus is getting worse. Obviously in January, there was nothing, and it's been steadily getting redder and oranger than it was in the past. That's obviously a bad thing. So from a virus perspective, the virus is getting worse. And if you look at this from a labor market perspective, which is right here, things are really not improving that much either. If anything, they're getting slightly worse, or they're at least stagnant. But the hottest part of the market is the Henry phenomenon of mortgage applications are up. But even consumers don't feel consumers don't even feel any more optimistic about the economy. It's just stagnant. And then we get to Levi, right? Restaurants. You're just not seeing that kind of recovery, which is the whole reason then why last week they decided to give, which I think is I actually think it's a bad idea, but I don't know. I mean, the Hawaii has all this CARES Act money to use up, and they didn't know what to use it on. So they decided to give every unemployed person $500 as a restaurant gift card. Why? I mean, so it's going to help Levi, right? Levi, are you pumped about it?
I
Or
don't know.
heard about this
I have
yet?
mixed feeling. I have mixed feelings about it.
What's your mixed feeling about it?
Well, okay. So as you know, servers are tip workers, and
Yes.
so these people getting $500, they're going to see this as a premium or a deal for them. So they're going to try to be as frugal as possible with it. And I don't blame them. It's just pure microeconomics. They're going to use it to the most efficient way possible, right?
Mhm.
But the restaurant's going to be better off because the money goes straight to them. The consumer would be better off. But for us workers who are based on that tip stuff, it may not be as better off because that tip is contingent. They could just make it lower because trying to save money on that debit card. Of course, I'm not going to say all people are like that, but there are people who are going to be frugal and think economically for themselves, and people are more likely to think that way in hard times. I mean,
Right.
I'm sure all of us have done something like that before. Yeah, so I just feel like that is a possibility that could happen. Typically, right now, those who are eating out are those who are going to be okay if they eat out, right? So if those
What
who
do you
are
mean
not
by
going to be
that?
okay, well, because they're going to come out and eat out, right? What I said earlier, we already have a slowdown of people coming back, right? So for those who are coming back, they're able to dispose of that income and probably do the whole shebang of the restaurant experience. But now that the restaurant gift card is out, it's going to reach a group of consumers that previously would not dispose of their money in that segment of the market, right? And I feel like they're going to treat that differently.
Well, they are. And so that's exactly what I want to talk about here, right? Is
Excellent
that
point.
if we have this budget constraint, and let's just say I gave you $500 in cash, I'm not denying that you're going to go to a restaurant. Anyone with $500 would, yeah, I'm going to go to McDonald's and I'm going to get the local platter, right? But you're not going to spend, it's unlikely that you're going to spend all $500 at the restaurant, right? You're going to buy shoes, you're going to buy, you know, gasoline, you're going to buy movie tickets, you're going to buy a whole bunch of junk, right? And you're going to spend this total $500 budget on a combination of the goods. It's unlikely that you would be here where you spend all of your $500 on restaurants. It's also unlikely that you would be here where you spend nothing at restaurants, right? In reality, you have this kind of curve, which is called your indifference curve, which is tracking, do I want that good or not? That's my preferences. This is my budget constraint. Can I afford it? And if we look at where these two curves meet each other, it's something where I have some amount of restaurant meals, but not the extreme. And I have some amount of all the other stuff, but not the extreme. But what if I'm unemployed? And let's say I'm not even getting an unemployment check. Then the problem is that my preferences for going out to eat and consuming all this stuff, my indifference curve has not changed, but my budget constraint has. In fact, my budget constraint doesn't allow me, sorry, not all of the meals, all of the things. My restaurant gift card can only be used at the restaurant, meaning my budget constraint is down here. And so in actuality, the two never meet. I mean, you know, Karen, you were on unemployment, right?
Yes.
How often did you go out to eat when you were on unemployment?
Not as much as I would if I was actually working.
Exactly, right? And that's, you know, that's exactly what you would expect, right? Any reasonable customer, any reasonable person would say, dude, I lost my job. We're not all going out to eat tonight, right? We're just having beans tonight, right? We're having rice tonight. You know, we're, you know, going to eat ketchup packets tonight, right? We're just, you know, we're not going to be going to a restaurant. I can understand now. So, but look at it this way, right? The Honolulu, the city, I think it was the city and county, they had two options. They could have just given people $500 in cash. Instead, they gave $500 in expensive meals, right? I mean, I've never been to the Cheesecake Factory, but from all that I hear, it's not exactly super cheap, is it, Levi?
No.
Nope.
How much would a typical meal be for two people?
$30 to $40.
For two people each or total?
Yeah, no, not each, for 2 people total, because I
$40.
think if you try to just really scrap it, maybe you can make it a $10 meal, but it'd be pretty hard. You have to try to get an appetizer for a dinner or something like that. But usually you're probably looking at around $15 to $20 if you get just a standard
That's
meal.
just for the entree, though, isn't it, Levi?
Yep, that's just the entree.
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking 50 to 75 total, including.
So let's throw in dessert, but let's say they're not going to pay for liquor, so let's just say it's $50. So basically, then you're saying that a couple can go out to eat 10 times, or if they've got two kids, now they can only go out to eat, right, 5 times. That sucks, right? I mean, think of all that they could have done with $500, right? They could have like paid for maybe a third of their rent, right, or something like that. Instead, they're going to get sick and tired of eating the breadsticks at the factory, but it's because we have forced them to go to the factory or some other restaurant to eat. I mean, yeah, you could use it at Taco Bell, but even at Taco Bell's not super cheap. And when you're unemployed, I mean, things are desperate. You don't want to be going out to eat that much. Think of how much food you could buy at Costco, right? With $500, you could easily buy a month's worth of food at Costco for a family with $500, right? Just buy, you know, don't buy lots of frozen food, but you could buy, you know, peanut butter and bread and, you know, soup and flour, and you could easily live for 1 month on $500 for a family at Costco. But here's the bigger issue, right? That's me, right? That's Scheiding saying, right? If my wife and I lost our jobs, we probably would not go to restaurants at all. We'd go to Costco, buy bulk, and, you know, hunker down. It's unreasonable and it's unfair for me to impose that on others, right? So I can't say, Levi, I'm smarter than you. You can't go to the restaurant either. You have to go to Costco. I'm smarter than you, so I'm not going to give you $500 in cash. I'm going to give you a $500 Costco cash card. The moment I start to impose my value system on Levi, the best that can happen, and in this case, it's actually true. Levi and I are quite alike. So in this case, Levi is going to be he's going to be indifferent. He would have done the exact same thing. He's not going to be any happier. There is probably some snooty Whole Foods unemployed person who would spend $500 at restaurants and be totally as happy as Caldwell is forcing him to be. What I'm saying to you is that being equally happy is the best case scenario. Instead, we're giving every unemployed person a $500 debit card that they have to use at restaurants, even if they don't like going out to eat. Let's just say they are like, I don't know, allergic to pasta, right, or whatever. Well, then going out to the Cheesecake Factory, they're not going to be able to eat very much, right? Don't they serve pasta at the Cheesecake Factory?
Yes, a lot of it.
Yeah, exactly. So right. So if I've got that, like, what is that, like celiac disease, or what is that thing that people can't eat pasta with?
Gluten-free thing.
Yeah, right. What if I need gluten-free stuff? Well, then you're forcing me to die by eating my weight in my body weight at the factory. And now the factory is going to get crowded, and right, I'm not going to be able to get a seat. I don't know. It was just depressing to me because I actually just thought it's better to just let people make their own choices. I may disagree with what people do with the money, but that's the nature of the U.S. economy, is that people do spend money on stupid things.
So here, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, all right. So yes, they're getting forced to spend $500 on the restaurant. Now, obviously, if you look at this, what they're trying to do is they're trying to stimulate the restaurant industry. You're trying to directly address their hotspot on that heat grab up there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, do you think it's going to do that? Like, is that really going to happen? Are they going to use all $500 of that card, and will it really stimulate it?
Well, remember, so this is a Hawaii-specific program. The problem with that, right, unless you're talking about like the Rainbow Inn, right, like everything is owned by some company on the mainland. So, yeah, I mean, yes, we've helped you keep your job, but wouldn't it just have been better just to give you a big fat check, right, instead of doing it this indirect way of saying, here's some money for someone to use at the factory, and then 50% or 75% of the profits go back to the mainland, right, in the form of a franchise fee, and then some of it stays here. I mean, again, you've got like Zippy's, and you've got like some locally owned places, but most of these places are not, from Hawaii. I'm not saying they don't contribute anything to the economy, but it's nowhere near what, the amount of stimulus that comes from giving people food stamps, right? With food stamps, people generally spend all of it in a month and more so. And they spend it at stores. Yes, they spend it at stores like Safeway, which is owned by a company on the mainland, but still the margins are so low that you're still getting people to eat and they're buying a lot of food for their money. Or even with unemployment insurance, people spend obviously their unemployment check on rent, probably first and foremost, or their mortgage, right? And then they pay things like their property taxes, and then they buy food. They do all those things with the unemployment insurance, and they stimulates the economy more than just saying, here's a restaurant gift card, now use it.
Got it.
Think of that $1,200. Think of the $1,200, right? Everyone got that $1,200. Everyone did something different with it. For me, I spent it on my kids' tuition, right? So you could say I stimulated the local economy because it went to local schools here, right? And some people invested it in the markets. Some people went to restaurants, right? So, some people went and bought clothing. Some people went and paid the rent. Everyone did their own little thing. And that's exactly what you want in a good stimulus, because it's meant to simulate how people would spend their money as if they were earning it when they, in fact, no longer were. All that you're going to do here is you're going to just create this bubble in the restaurant market where now all of a sudden restaurants are going to be like, you can only eat here for 20 minutes because there's a long line of people that want to eat here. I mean, I don't know.
So
I mean, yeah.
what you said kind of solidifies what I've been thinking about it. I think the biggest problem with this type of stimulus is it only stimulates the companies that are receiving the cash, but not directly the workers who are going to be doing the spending, and it
Hmm?
therefore doesn't directly stimulate the economy as we hope it would.
Hmm? I mean, yeah, I agree. So
Because
even
once
my
again,
even
they're
my
going to use
industry
it.
is being stimulated though, right? So higher education is being overly stimulated right now. I mean, there's just, as Cody mentioned last week, there's just crazy CARES Act money out there right now that, like, if you don't have enough money to go to school, there's probably some CARES Act money out there to still pay your bill, right? Which basically means that people are over consuming education right now, right? People are staying in school saying, I'm going to do, I can't tell you the number of emails I've gotten this week from someone saying, I decided I graduated and now I'm going to do my law degree. And I was like, really? I don't remember her ever being interested in the law. And now all of a sudden she's like saying, I'm going to go to law school. Well, why, right? Part of it might be she just never told me. But the other part of it might be is like, man, what the fuck else am I going to do? And, there's all this money out there to do it anyway. I mean, right, that's part of the problem with further education. That's also the problem with, I mean, and this is no offense against anyone, but right, some people that finish at Leeward, right, I mean, they should have finished at Leeward. They would have been totally fine. They would have gotten exactly the right career for that level of education. Yet we over incentivize people to get a 4-year degree when sometimes a 2-year degree or an apprenticeship is totally appropriate, right? I
No,
mean,
I think now they're pushing the masters, right? Because everyone
yeah,
has bachelors now, so
yeah,
it's like it's never enough, you know. Like what
yeah,
you just said, that's true, but now it's
yeah,
even further, right? Now it's
yeah.
oh, you'll be fine with a bachelor's, but
But not
you
really.
know,
I mean, right? I
right?
mean,
Yeah.
It seems like an associate's degree is the new high school diploma.
exactly.
No, no, no. Bachelor's is the new high school diploma. That's what I'm trying to say.
Probably. I mean, no. I mean, in both regards, right? I mean, it could be the associate's degree or the bachelor's degree is the new high school degree. I mean, but think of all the high school degree jobs out there then that go unfilled, and the fact that entry level, business admin jobs are like have like 50 people applying to it or 100 people applying to it.
Holy
Whereas if you
crap,
just
this
wanted
is
a
a whole
job,
nother spiel right here.
why? Like if you want to be a
Because
clerk at the post office, you could easily, right? You just need a high school degree, and you can totally easily get a career with the post office. Right, the post office is always hiring people. Just like if I wanted to work at Nom Nom or whatever, right? And I just said, I just want to be a cashier. That's all I ever want in life. It's a nice, easy life. You could totally get that job pretty easily, even in today's economy. I
yeah,
don't know, Levi. So Levi, you're on the market right now as an accounting kind of person, which is supposed to be our in-demand field. What kind of nibbles have you been getting, if any?
in job offers or how like
Yeah,
hard
or
it is to
anything,
get
or
it.
internships, or anything.
Well, actually, the good news is I actually landed an interview for this Thursday,
Oh,
but
nice.
but
Are you
it hasn't been
optimistic?
easy, that's for sure. I feel optimistic. I feel like the hardest part is to get them to that interview. But once I get there, I feel pretty confident I can convince them to hire me.
Is
But
it the same place as Wendell Lee we used to work at, or is it a different firm?
no, I don't think so. But it's somewhere called Acuity LLP. But
Oh, I know Acuity. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, hopefully they'll hire me. But now standing back from that, from a perspective on like how hard it is, I feel like it's somewhat saturated. Um, I think the fact that it requires the perseverance of pursuing an additional certification on top of that in the future, like a CPA license, is
Hmm.
what keeps the market more open than compared to a business administration entry level job where you just go straight into the work without having to get any other certification, right?
But
So
but you're competing against someone though that, right? Like, so my mother, she just knows basic. She graduated from high school. She took like 1 or 2 community college classes in accounting, and she just basically does cost accounting that you wouldn't need that you wouldn't need a CPA for. And, she does invoices and, all the kinds of things that not necessarily an accountant would do, but the firm then doesn't have to hire an accountant to do it. I mean, right? And she can kind of do it because the software allows her to do most of the stuff an accountant could do. So, right? I mean, even the value of being a CPA, right, is diminishing to the extent that technology and the associate's degree could still overcome it, right?
I think I disagree on that part because
Okay.
that would be just like bookkeeping and maybe like finding like accounting solutions for a mom and pop's company or low level ones. But the fact that there is requirement for assurance in investments communities, financial communities, that they need to feel assured that they're going to look at these financial statements and feel secure in their investments. That drives the accountants to learn more than that, just that standard knowledge. So that creates the whole field of audit and taxing, and that would be like where the CPA exam is really meant for. Like that my group of people, or at least what I'm trying to shoot for, that's what we're entering. I feel like, yes, the market is related when it comes to those 2 types of jobs, the bookkeeping and getting that software in and stuff. But I think it is splintered off into 2 different types of areas. And there's one that's a little bit more on the private side that does those solutions, and that yes, there's a lot of competition in that. It does fall in that category where someone who just has associates, takes a few classes, it can be likely is hired. Someone who's a bachelor's, tons of people with bachelor's degrees actually will be vying for that position. However, when it comes to that second segment, which I myself am aiming for, the auditing and assurance, as well as advanced tax policies, and trying to analyze that for the companies or clients that hire that public accounting. Basically, it's public, and that requires you to have an additional certificate in the future. That's what keeps the market a little more clear for those trying to enter, rather than the other segment I'm talking about, where the bookkeeping and stuff. But I guess if you really think about it, it is looping back to what we said earlier, that you need something more after the bachelor's degree to make yourself more viable for a higher paying.
I mean, so there's another side of this, though, right? So, who are all the veterans in the class? Jerry, are you? No, I know Freese, you are. Who else is a veteran?
Cody?
Veterans.
Yeah,
Sorry, you're talking about actual veterans. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah,
I thought you were talking about like.
Not veterinarians, veterans. Yeah. So, right. I mean, the problem with veterans would be, right, is that while they tell really great stories, right, and they disavow us of how the movies glorify what they do, right? That's not as fun as like the movie Major Payne, which is a great movie, but
that's probably a great movie.
Oh, it's a great movie. Major Payne. Oh, come on. Okay, we gotta do this, right?
I laughed so hard when I first watched it. It was
exactly.
It was so fucking funny.
I don't think it's gonna do I don't think it does the audio thing. Wait, can I change this to? I can't. I don't think it share device audio on. I don't know if it does it if I do this. Okay, I can't promise anything. You may not be able to hear the audio.
This is not even a good. This is not even a. I'm not gonna word it. Shiny.
It's not appropriate.
Major Payne. Well, no. It's just so.
It's not realistic.
Major Payne is so unrealistic to try to compare it to how it really is.
Of course.
In regards to what you said about veterans disavowing.
Yeah. You hear that?
You definitely hear it.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, let's. use our technology.
Yeah, it's
What we have here, lady, is a failure to communicate.
I can barely hear it, but
Oh my
Killing
god.
is my business, and business is good.
Now all the blood is shed in the halls of Congress.
Major Pain, what a great movie here, right? And it's not like Top Gun for those of you who are in the
Major
Air Force.
Benson Winifred Payne needs a job.
Major Payne reporting for duty, sir.
What?
But this isn't what he had in mind.
What's your name, girly mouth?
Yeah, that probably never happened, right? Shooting in the air.
what's that, Shotty?
You guys can't just like shoot in the air, right? At your
Yeah, I can hear it.
something like that. Yeah, but you guys can't just like shoot in the air at your recruits, right? I mean, you wouldn't have some guy yelling at you. And you don't, for those of you who are in the Air Force, it's not like Top Gun. Let's see, we need something for the Navy. What would their equivalent
Okay, it's a submarine movie, Shotty. The comedy with a female.
Das Boot.
No, not that one. Damn, what was it? Down Periscope.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what I say? I have said this quite often. Every profession gets a movie. I'm not exactly sure what the profession... for professor, I'm not sure if we've really gotten our great movies. And, well, obviously, Levi with The Accountant. You guys got a great one, The Accountant. But, yeah. Even, like, Ski Patrol, right? They got their own movie. No, but I mean, so the reason why I was bringing this up, right, is that what does the GI Bill do, right? It puts veterans and it pushes them into a house because they get a VA loan, right? It pushes them to get a 4-year degree, even if they don't want it, right? Obviously, right, if you were to take a poll of like new recruits, right, there's obviously like someone like my father, you know, who's in the Army. The only reason why he joined was because he wanted to buy a house. You know, he was just poor, and it was going to be the only way he'd ever be able to get a house was if, right, as if he, you know, did up and did his time, you know, because then he could get a VA loan. And he didn't really care that, you know, he never actually even used his VA benefits, right? And this was before you could, you know, give it to other people, you know, that kind of thing. So he just never used it, but he definitely used, you know, the VA loan. Right, but you get this kind of thing where, again, you can create these perverse incentives in a profession that you encourage overconsumption of certain things, right? So again, restaurant gift card, right, can encourage overconsumption of restaurant meals, right? Or even like the GI Bill, great intentions, right, to encourage people, you know, to rise up in the social system, but Major Payne here is going to be able to go to college and get a house, and he's going to also be competing with everyone else that's trying to buy a house and go to school. And he may overconsume education as well and may buy a bigger house than he otherwise would. Okay, so it is 6:08. I want to talk for just a few more minutes just about this slide, and then we'll take a break at that point. So this is kind of my summary of what's, and again, I'll post all these slides, but this is just a summary of what was going on the last slide. Some of the key points I want to highlight here would be consumers feel less confident, in part because the extra money they were getting has run out. People are not going out to eat as much as they used to, right? That's kind of tenuous. That for whatever reason, mortgage demand does remain strong.
Actually, I wanted to make one more comment about that one, Shadi.
Sure.
In addition to everything we discussed regarding the housing market here and on Oahu, there is I read an article about 3 or 4 weeks ago talking about how much of a shortage there is of housing here.
Yeah, no, there is. There totally is.
Which I already knew, but it said that there this is about 4 weeks ago. It said that, well, at that point in time, there were only 800 single-family homes available to buy here.
So, obviously I've told you all I was in the market. So I keep getting these emails from the real estate agent of like, check out this house, even though I've already got a house. So I've already identified something, but I just want to show you this house that I saw today. I'm sure it's still for sale. I would suspect it's still for sale.
Did you buy in Manoa?
Yeah, I did.
So what were you renting in Manoa before you bought in Manoa?
Yeah, faculty get faculty housing. So faculty housing, it's kind of like it's subsidized rent. But again, these places were built in like 1990, and the it's a state. It's it's owned by the state, so there's no air conditioning. They don't put any money into it. It's a great location, but I mean, you run out of space, and we've got the biggest place you can get.
Was it an actual single-family house that they were?
It's
providing you with?
No, we're in like so we live in it's kind of like a townhouse, but it's like a connected townhouse with other townhouses, and you basically all live right next to each other. Everyone knows everyone's business, like
yep.
It's the way it is. No, but so these aren't relevant because these are like just rooms and stuff. I want to show you.
I was wondering why they were all under $100,000.
Yeah, some of them are just
that they look like studios.
Yeah, some of these are. No, I want to find this one that I saw today, and when I saw it today, I just laughed. This one right here. Look at that! Look at that
what?
piece of shit! Look at that piece
Holy
of shit!
Fuck, dude!
It's in town.
Where is that?
It's
yeah,
in
that's
town.
what I was about to ask. Oh.
It's by Pearl Shitty.
Oh my god!
It's by Pearl
up.
Shitty. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean it's yeah, I mean I guess it's closer. Sorry, it's not near. It's near Nuuanu in Moanalua. But yeah, this house was built in 1942.
Never had anything done to it.
Probably not since 1942. No.
Can you pull up the map again, Shady? I'm trying to.
Yeah, it was. Let me go back to it here. So it was in kind of near Mauna Kalihi, the Kalihi Valley.
Would you mind zooming in?
Zooming in, sure.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I know where that area is.
Yep, right by the Like. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's in Kalihi Valley.
Yep. So $630,000. You're gonna own this gem right here. Karen, would you want to live there?
No, why? Can we see inside photos? It looks kind of scary.
I did try to. I did when I looked at this today. I tried to look at.
Oh, maybe this house is a genie inside, and it'll grant you wishes.
So that what we looked at was actually the good side. Look at this: the gutter's coming down. Obviously, it's losing some.
600 square feet. That's it.
Yeah. So basically, there's no pictures of the inside though. Yeah, you're gonna need some paint for this bad boy. It's been on the market one day.
Buy my house today. It is the most polished of all turds you will.
But obviously, you're buying it because it's on 0.39 acres.
It said last for $256K in what
I saw
year?
that in 1980.
That answers my question.
1986 or 1987, I think it was.
For what, Shady?
For $250-some thousand in 1986. It sold.
Oh, okay.
So think about that from an investment perspective. So let's look at your taxes, how low your taxes are. 17, 18 a year. I mean, that's pretty cheap. That's land, right? So you'd have to get someone who, wants to.
So the land is
build their
large.
own
That's
house.
why it's.
Yeah,
that's why it's that expensive.
Although from the looks of this, you're buying the hill. I can't exactly tell.
So
I
from
don't-
around the 1980s till now, did Hawaii's housing market double?
Or triple? I mean, I
I'm
don't.
thinking tripled.
I think it's got to be more than doubled or tripled.
At least tripled.
I mean, the problem with buying land, right, is that you have it takes a particular kind of buyer, right? So let me just show you Manoa here, because this is what we were looking at, and I know the one that we looked at is probably still.
Shiting. I'm thinking if someone
Yeah.
is rich and had the money to buy that place for 630 and invest in it, and build a very nice house and sell it, they could make a profit.
Yeah, but it would take a special kind of person, right? I mean,
Yeah, definitely.
and as you know, here in Hawaii, building is not easy at all, right? In
Or
terms
fast.
of permitting, exactly. And you're going to have all those carrying costs. Now, so obviously I was looking in Manoa. I want to show you the place I looked at. My wife and I took a tour of it. I'm not making this a class where we just look at houses here. That's not my intent here. I just want to show you this one. I think it's not that. It's not that. It's not that. I think it's this. No, it's not that. Sorry, I'm trying to find the one that I looked at and I just laughed. It might be this one here. So, yeah. So this is the house that we looked at very briefly. So we looked at this house. It's like an old style home in Manoa, on Manoa Road. I don't even think they're showing any pictures. Oh yeah, they show some pictures of the outside. It's like, it's got like a little bit of a yard around it. You get a driveway that's pretty big, and you've got your house. But it actually didn't even include a refrigerator. It just had like a big plant where the refrigerator should have been. So you didn't even have all the appliances.
I've never seen that before.
You can kind of see
Oh, there it
right
is.
here. Yeah, see, it's like a plant instead in that spot right here. So it
Trying
has
to trick
just,
people.
exactly. So I was like looking around and I was like, hey, where's the fridge?
Thank you for sharing
yeah.
that, Shiting. That is definitely a first.
And that
That's a
house
trap.
is $1.27 million. Right, so that should give you a little bit of a sense of again of what the how hot the market is, right, when we were just talking about inventory. But again, it gives you this sense of all the weirdness that happens when you stimulate the economy only with cheap interest rates. But cheap interest rates are not going to give the jobless jobs, right? Cheap interest rates are not going to give the jobless food. Cheap interest rates aren't going to give people even financial aid that need financial aid, right? All that it does is it makes those who have an income have cheap access to capital. And that's all it really does, right?
Say that one more time, Shiting. It does. All it does is.
So all that monetary stimulus does is it gives people who already have income, it gives them cheap access to capital, cheap access to money. And all that does is it basically makes, and I'm not trying to get like all Marxist here or anything, but it really does make the rich richer and the poor poorer, right? So then, right, Henry lost out, not because he couldn't get a loan. It's just that someone else got access to a bigger loan, right? They could bid more, right? And again, you get these bidding wars where, again, we're not talking about even the inflated value, but we're talking about bids well above in excess, such that this person without a fridge can ask for 1.27, or the person with that shack can ask for 630K, right? And it just is weird. Yeah.
That's a good noun to use, a shack.
Exactly. Okay, so it's 6:20. Let's pick it up here at 6:35. So I'll give you all 15 minutes. I'll pick it up here at 6:35.
Shouting, how late are we going today?
I'll probably go to about 7:20-ish, 7:15, 7:20. Okay. Okay. My family's eating pizza downstairs, apparently. They went to Pieology. Pieology, what a great place, huh? Okay.
Biology out here on the west side.
No, they went to the one, I think they went to the one in Aina, I think. Like, I think there's one, or maybe, no, wait, is there one near Aina? Or maybe they went to the one at Kahala Mall. I think one of those. Okay. So let's look at this here. So this is the big thing that you would think it's political, but it's actually almost regardless of what the state is. I mean, like it or hate it, in most states, the state government is usually the biggest employer in that state. It's true in Hawaii, it's true in most other states. And the number of employees isn't insignificant. So so I got all the pictures I'm showing you today come from Bloomberg. So if we follow the white line here, right, we can see that during the 2008-2009 crisis, that you had this right downward employment trajectory that was created, and then eventually it recovered, and then it really fell off now, right? So even and it's just, we've had a hiring freeze here in the university system. I mean, there's just nothing to be found. So we know that state employment is falling off. Then, if we look at the contributions to GDP by the state government, it's also falling. Yeah.
Yeah, we can't see the graph.
Oh, sorry. Good. Darn it. Thanks for saying something. Thank you for saying something. Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to this. Okay. Well, look at this. I had drawn pictures. So over here.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So these are all taken from Bloomberg. So in this 2008, 2009, 2010 period right here, the employment numbers are going down. That's this white line here. And then they're increasing in the later part of the recovery here, and then it falls off with the crisis. Because most states have balanced budget amendments, meaning they have to match their revenue to their expenses. So, right, I mean, they just have to cut. They don't have a choice. And then if we look at the way that, right, and we know that GDP is one of the components is government spending. So if we look at that, and that would be this yellow line, we also see that it's now going negative. And that it's doing that because the blue line, which is state and local tax receipts, has also decreased. So basically, the yellow lines can only go up when the blue line is up. And when the blue line is down, the yellow lines have to be down, right? Because of balanced budget amendments. And that's exactly what you're seeing here. Out of all 50 states, I think 40 of the 50 states have balanced budget amendments. So they basically can only spend as much as they bring in. So look at Hawaii, right? I mean, if we were talking about, right, if I was saying Scheiding for mayor, right, and I had to go out there and try to stimulate the economy, I'd be spending more money, right? I'd be like, giving everyone, $200, Visa cards and just say, go to town, buy whatever you want, right? And I'd be saying, I'll hire anyone who wants a job. All these kinds of things to try to stimulate the economy. But I can't do it if no money's coming in. Just basically what we're saying here. The only way around this is if the federal government, which doesn't have a balanced budget amendment, is if the federal government just gives cash to the state and local governments, which is what the Democrats want. The Democrats, I think, want to give state and local governments, I think it's like $2 trillion total. Just give them all like some big set of money. Whereas
2.2, isn't it?
Hmm?
2.2.
That's right, 2.2 trillion dollars, right? So they just want to give all the states this big chunk of money, and the Republicans are like, all you're going to do is, give it to unions within your state employees, right? I mean, I'm not aggrandizing here, right? But I'm sure there's some extent to which that's the argument. And I'm not saying that I, as a state unionized employee, wouldn't benefit from that, but at the same time, regardless of my union status, I still do spend money in the economy, right? Which is kind of the point of, if I did have to take a furlough, I probably would tell my wife, dude, we can't be going to Pyology, right? The only way we're going to Pyology is if we order something and then we run off without paying for it. That's the only way we're going to Pyology. No. So that's what we're seeing right here, right? So I just kind of got this from, I'm just taking the data from here and I'm just kind of putting it on the words here. Quite significantly here, and this is the big thing here. Sorry, no, I don't want it like that. I want it like that. Okay, whatever I sent. Go there. Look at this part right here. So in the data, what we see is that things didn't start to grow again until about 2014, right? So even though stimulus started happening around right here, right? And that's when you started stimulating the economy, giving it more money, but the recovery didn't happen for a few years after. Unfortunately, that would be the same way here. So basically, the Democrats would be giving money to state and local governments, but you wouldn't see it for a while. And there's two ways you could take this, right? So the one way you would do this is you could just give states money and just say it's a loan, but you never have to pay it back. That would be one way to do it. But the other way to do it is that most states have spent all of the money in their unemployment pool, and unemployment is financed by state governments. And when that money runs out, they can get a loan from the federal government to keep paying unemployment benefits, but they're probably unlikely to say, hey, we're going to expand unemployment insurance so that it's, 50 weeks, because right now it's technically just 26 weeks, across the government. It's 26 weeks. The state's unlikely to make it last longer if there's no money from the federal government to do so. And this is the big thing I really want you to look at here, not to just sell my point as a state employee. But if you don't stimulate state and local governments, which make up about 20% of the GDP, if you don't do that, you cut something off from GDP totally, and you go from having some recovery to being a very mild recovery, right? Because again, I'm not the only state employee, right? Obviously, there's all the state teachers, public school teachers, people that work for the Board of Water Supply. There's the whole UH system. If the state's largest employer, right, which used to be Hawaiian Airlines and is now the state of Hawaii, if that largest employer has to now cut everyone's salary by 10%, it bears to follow that the whole recovery in the state of Hawaii is not going to be as strong as if I had 10% more money in my pocket, which I can then use to go to Pyology. And that's what you start to see here is you start to put this into the labor market. I know it seemed like for some of you who are a little bit more conservative in your political beliefs, not saying you're Republican, but for those of you who are a little bit more conservative, fiscally conservative, you may have thought that that $600 that everyone got, even if you got $1 of unemployment money, you got $600 extra. So, I mean, I'm not saying that those who, I mean, I don't know. I'll stop picking on you, Levi. Karen, did you get the $600?
Yes.
And did you think, I guess at the time, when you were getting unemployment insurance and the $600, did it almost seem like too much money?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, right? And that was kind of the point, right? Is that it probably exceeded what you were getting from your job, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, don't be shy about it. Yeah, totally, right? But that was kind of the intent, right? Is so that then the Karens could then either compensate for other family members who didn't get it, right? And then it kept, right, her entire household still spending at the level as if from the time before when, right, she was laid off. With the idea being, right, at least back in the beginning when it was March, right, is that, oh, people get sick for a month or two, right, and then all of a sudden people won't get sick anymore, right? And then Karen will be back at work and all will be well in the world. But obviously it didn't happen, right? And so now again, we're in this situation where, right, this is all gone, right? And then for those who are still collecting it, you get an extra $300. Well, you haven't gotten it yet, but there'd be some point where you get that extra $300. And it's not even going to last that long. So we're basically stimulating the economy less when we know full well, you know, the economy in Hawaii still relies on tourism, and it's just not going to come back in the same way or fast enough as it used to. I mean, it's just not, right? I mean, I don't know. Is Aulani still closed or is it open?
I think it's closed, but it's opening, I've heard, in November.
Right. So, I mean, some people might still go to Aulani. Oh, remember when we had 396, Econ 396? Remember when we did that whole thing about Airbnb? I mean, think about all those people, right? I mean, all the people that like run those units, right? They spend money, obviously, right? They hire cleaning crews, right? It encouraged visitors to come here because then they could stay here cheaply, right? And spend money on other things. But dude, that doesn't exist anymore, right? So if Airbnbs can open up until I think the last stage of the recovery is when Airbnbs can finally open up again. If they can't open up again, what kind of visitors are we going to be getting in November, right? We're going to be getting the Aulani crowd. We're not getting, people from Arkansas, right? We're getting people from New York City, right? And yes, they spend a lot of money, but there's not a lot of them. Is kind of my point here. Like it or dislike it, we kind of have adopted more of a volume-based tourism model, right? Where we just want to bring in as many possible and it be more affordable, as opposed to, I don't know, 20 years ago even, where Hawaii used to be much more of a high-cost destination and people did spend more. And what that means here, as we look at this, is when we think about the future and how people are going to be spending the money, is that it was absolutely the case that out through late summer, we were actually still pretty good. Out through the end of July, certainly. We were actually pretty good. Most states, the stimulus was large enough to get us through July. And I think the expectation was that either the disease was going to be gone. I'm not sure if exactly that was the belief, but it certainly was the belief. We'll do something now, we'll see how it goes, and then we'll get another bill passed. It didn't, right? And again, the problem is that now it's like too close to the election for politicians to actually do their job. And because of that, is that now all the businesses, the small and large businesses that were relying on that PPP money, they're not getting, right? They're not getting any help anymore. So they've run out of all their money. So even, there's no unemployment insurance equivalent for businesses. That's why they're doing this gift card thing for restaurants. And I think, oh my God, you know that guy that was in the news last week for stealing all that money in Hawaii? The PPP money? Anyone hear about this?
Yeah,
Yes?
I think I
No?
heard about it.
His son went to my son's preschool. I met him once. He seemed like kind of a mean guy. It turned out he is actually a real dick. Not only did he like steal the money, so he got like $12 million in small business loans that were designed if you see right here, look at that even. I'm just looking at this right now. Honolulu agencies asked to identify potential budget cuts up to 10%. Except you don't want, this is not what you want to read as a headline. I mean, it might, right? I mean, from a pocketbook perspective, right? If you were talking about Honolulu running out of money, you'd exactly expect, yeah, they should cut their expenses if their revenue is cut. But what I'm saying to you is that's not what should happen, right? It's exactly the opposite should be happening. It's, again, counterintuitive, but if you want to stimulate your economy, Honolulu should be spending more, not less. This guy here. So this guy, I'm not sure if they show a picture of him. This guy, it's this guy right here, the guy on the right. His son was also named Marty. And so he ran a business that like made like boat, like it made like ship hulls and things like that, like defense stuff. So obviously his contracts didn't run out during the pandemic. So he was actually good. He wasn't probably eligible for the money, but he asked for like a whole bunch of money and he got it. And then he put the money in his own personal account, which is what he got arrested for. But look how much of a dick he was. He sent, look at this, right? Here's a line of his. I'm a man of few words when it comes to matters like COVID-19. I'm a man of even fewer words when it comes to your personal fears, feelings, or afflictions with regard to the virus during these times. In fact, I really only have 3 words. I don't care. Look at that. Wow, that's like, oh, that's pretty mean, don't you think? I mean, Russell, what do you think, dude? Russell, are you even there? Oh, I lost Russell. I can't see who's there anymore. Andrew, are you there still?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Andrew, doesn't that sound pretty rough? I mean, that sounds pretty like.
At
Sounds
least
like
he's blunt about it, though.
Exactly. I guess you could say that he's telling you exactly how it is. No, and then it gets even better, Andrew. Just wait, it gets better. This is what he says here at one point. Here it is. This line right here, quote, so when you're working from home in your pajamas and get up to go to the bathroom, grab a drink snack from the refrigerator, change the channel on the TV or whatever you're watching on Netflix, be sure to take time to walk in front of a mirror. Look in the mirror and ask the person staring back at you, what sacrifices are you making? And then, working from home is a privilege. So if I sniff, whiff, or hear of anyone abusing this privilege, you will be met with draconian consequences. Wow, it's like a Dickens tale. But even if this guy wasn't being a real dick and what he did wasn't illegal, the fact that lots of businesses, small businesses got loans, even if they didn't need them, doesn't bother me, right? I mean, yeah, it seems a little bit like foolish in terms of spending money, but the idea is that small businesses, as long as they're spending the money, I'm okay with it because it's doing exactly what it was intended to do, which is stimulate the economy. All that this was doing was stimulating his bank account, right? Which is not what we want to have happening. We want to be stimulating the economy. Yeah, it turns out he was really rich. Should have been better friends with him. Now let's look at the scary numbers. Real GDP. It's going to go up in the third quarter. The third quarter, which just ended on September 30th. Real GDP is probably going to be up about 28%. But before you think that that's really great, remember that it had fallen 31.4% in the second quarter. Most concerning, though, would be that in the fourth quarter, the growth rate's going to slow down to 2.5%, largely because of a problem we could easily fix. If we had fiscal stimulus, we would not get that part in the green. We'd be at higher than 2.5%. The government should be spending much, much more money, right? We should have a Keynesian response to complement expansionary monetary policy, and we don't. Because the net result of all this is that for the year, the economy is going to shrink by 3.8%. And best case scenario in 2021, maybe it grows 3.5%, but even then it's just offsetting the way at which we declined in 2020. And you get the same problems for unemployment. It's going to improve, but it's still going to be bad. And as I talked about last week, you're still going to have these inflationary pressures. And then what's going to happen is that if the Democrats do win in the election, and they do take power in January, and they do listen to Scheiding and engage in fiscal stimulus, it's only going to fuel inflation even more. And if you had to think about something better than just giving, like how should we be giving money to people? One of the ways that we see that people are just not spending their money on is that they're not spending it on services. We need to spend a lot more money on services. And this is my last slide. So this is my PCE, my personal consumption expenditures. While for goods it fell and has largely recovered, for services it has not. Now services would cover anything from education to legal services to auditing, accounting services, massages, pedicures, childcare, all the services we can think of. People are not spending money on that; they're spending money instead. And the concerning part is, look at what it was in 2018, 2019. Services have always been larger part of consumption than the goods spending. In fact, it's twice as large. But it actually has fallen just as much, and it's not recovering. So if anything, when the government does finally engage in stimulus, it should specifically focus on trying to stimulate spending on services by consumers, not just goods. So I guess in that sense, spending money on restaurants might be good because restaurants are considered a service, not a good. So maybe that's a good thing. But we need a lot more stimulus of services than we just do of goods in general. So, when I look at this as a whole, I mean, when I woke up today, I wasn't as concerned as I was when I was ending today, and largely because of what Trump announced at 9 a.m., which was no more stimulus, chances for stimulus until now. What do you hope for Trump to win? I mean, what do you do? I'm not sure what you hope for at this point. Do you hope for him to win so maybe you get the stimulus a little earlier? Or do you just say, fuck it, we'll just wait till January? I mean, I don't know. If we look at the markets now, it's kind of mixed. flat to falling slightly. I mean, it's nothing, not a lot of exciting stuff going on. Do you need to do your homework? What do you want? What is that, Fortnite?
Yes.
Are you able to play it, or what are you asking for? Sorry, then. What do you want?
I want to try play it.
Hey, for those of you Fortnite players, doesn't Fortnite only work on Steam?
I don't play Fortnite too often, but it has its own launcher. It's called Epic Games Launcher.
Yeah, you can play it on different platforms.
I don't think one of the platforms, though, is an Amazon tablet. Is that correct?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work on this. That's
It's
my
available
class.
for phones, though.
Oh, is it available for phones, you think, like Android?
Yeah, it's available for phones.
To get Google's phone.
Okay. Can you download it?
Well, we'll try. If not, I'll have to have Levi. I'll do it for you. And I'll have to pay him for that service. That's stimulating the economy. You should charge me for it, Levi. Yeah, so I mean, as we look at the markets here, they're either largely flat or slightly down, which I guess is just, I don't know what to hope for now. Okay, so that ends my formal lecture at this point. I am just finishing up equity, so I'm about 3/4 of the way through the required modules. I don't know where the rest of you are at. I'm probably going to start looking at it. I'm going to start to track where everyone is maybe tomorrow or maybe even tonight, and see where everyone is. Don't be scared though, because if you have not done it, I'm not gonna do anything yet. I don't know, Truman. I'm typing it in, and it's saying, what should I pick here? Fortnite ripoffs, Fortnite-like games, Fortnite IO, or Fortnite? I want to pick Fortnite.
I think they got banned from the App Store.
Okay,
so I didn't know that.
I want to pick Fortnite-like games. How about that? So you don't care if it's not Fortnite, do you?
Fine.
If it's like something like Fortnite?
Fine, I guess so.
Hey, you know what, Truman? When you got your own money, you can be like the kids in this class, and you can just waste all your money on video games.
Oh, they took it off. They took it out of the mobile platform.
Yeah, so the kids in class are saying they just took it off of the phones.
Who?
The kids in class are saying that the people who run that system took it off the phones.
Oh?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I guess they want people to pay for it, or they want to do it on a different platform.
Okay.
So it is. Okay, so anyone else want to talk about anything either market-wise or?
Shadi, what were you saying about the modules? You said how far did you say you got?
Right now I'm working on equities, so I'm about 3/4 of the way through the required ones. Has anyone finished theirs, by the way? I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking you.
I'm on the second one, about halfway through the second one.
Fixed income? Or what's that one? Currencies? Currencies?
Currencies, yeah, currencies.
Mm-hmm.
I might be even more than halfway through that one, but I'm still confused, Shadi. When do we take the test? Is that at the end of the fourth one?
I don't know exactly. To be honest, I haven't gotten that far yet. I mean, I know I'm taking the. Yeah, you can download it. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, like you, I actually don't know. I haven't Googled it enough to try to figure it out. I mean, I know I'm taking those quizzes as I go along.
Right.
But
How did
I
you
actually
do?
don't. I've been scoring generally. I mean, I'm not paying like total attention. I'm usually getting something like 80%, 82%, 83%. But I'm kind of just like next. Oh man, I just answered the question I didn't mean to, and I can't go back. So, like, you know, I just kind of take it as it goes. And for some of those where they only ask like 2 questions or 3 questions, misanswering 1 question, like, you know, totally screws it up.
Well, the reason I asked Shouting is because I'm finding it kind of hard to really keep up on some of those questions.
Don't worry about that. I mean, that's the whole point of this thing, right? Is that you're going to learn. I think it lets you retake things once after you've done everything. I think you can retake the whole thing again. But I mean, that's right. Isn't that the point of school, right? Is that you learn something? I mean, I'm learning something from it. So there's some things about currencies I didn't know before.
It's fairly interesting, but the way they ask the questions.
Oh, I know. Especially when they have the screenshots. The screenshots.
That gets hard to follow and or confusing.
Yeah. No. Same way.
I'll be pretty confident that I've gotten the answer correct, and then it'll come back and say no, it was this, and I'm like, what?
Well, see, for me sometimes too, it's just like I'm trying to answer quick to get it done because I usually only have limited time for things like that, and then I like answer quick. I'm like, oh yeah, I should have just read it closer, right? So I'm like that person in class, right? When you take an exam and you're like, oh, I should have just read closer. Yeah, that's my problem too. Yeah, so
I would agree with that. That's one of the probably issues I've had too.
So for everyone in this class, you really should be trying to wrap up. I know we're only in early October here. You should be aiming for 2 to 3 weeks more where you should be trying to wrap up the Bloomberg market concepts. And again, the thing to incentivize you all enough would be if enough of you complete it by the middle or end of October, we don't have to have a midterm. So there should be incentive enough for us to all be kind of doing it. I'll also encourage you to do it, except to say that if enough of us do it, we won't have to have a midterm, and then we can just really focus on the CFA certification at that point.
Which is
but hopefully you're working on both. Quite honestly, hopefully you're kind of looking at both and working on both. But if you're not, let's just try to focus on Bloomberg first, and then worry about the CFA part second.
Shadi, I'm a bit confused because I thought we weren't. I would have sworn asking the question, that are there going to be tests or homework in this class, and you said no, it's just the BMC and then the other.
The CFA thing. Yep, the CFA certification. Yep.
But what you're saying now is not enough people are really making enough progress.
No, exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a empty threat. I would say it's one where I'm saying I am expecting that if the alternative is you would have to take a test, I suspect most people will say, I'm going to react to incentives properly, and I'm going to do the Bloomberg market concepts. I'm not saying it's an empty threat because nothing is ever an empty threat, but I need to have something where I could, if someone were to ever ask me, how did you figure out what Michael should get in that class? Why did you give him that grade? I can then say, he did the market concept, so that's why he got that grade.
That makes perfect sense.
So I just have to have enough that I can go on. And again, I'm never going to say something like everyone has to have done it. Otherwise, if you don't, you have to take an exam. Because, dude, I mean, I don't know what's going on in, Andrew's life. If he's got if in October, he's getting lots of hours at work, and in September he got none, and he can't do Bloomberg market concepts. It's unfair to punish everyone in the class and say, you've all got to take an exam. That's what I'm just saying. If the vast majority of the class has done it, I lay off of everyone, and we're all good to go.
How many people are actually in this class, Shani?
That's a great question. We have 14 people in this class.
Okay.
Yep. So how many would I like to see? I'd like to see a simple majority. As long as we have 8 and above that have finished it by, let's say, 3rd week in October or 4th week in October at the latest, I'll be a happy person.
Okay.
And we'll even include myself.
What was the date on that, Shadi?
3rd or 4th week of October. I'll look at my calendar.
That's the 20th of October or 27th?
Oh, my anniversary is the 20th. Yeah, sure, we'll make it my anniversary, the 20th of October.
Hey, Shading, tell Truman that he can play Fortnite on his phone, but he has to download it through the Fortnite's main website and not through the Play Store or the Apple Store because they banned it because Google and Apple weren't happy about how they had in-app purchases.
What is it, Fortnite.com? Is that what it is?
Yeah, Fortnite. Hold on one second.
Yep. Hey, Truman. True. I think he's outside. It's like dark outside. He's outside. Yeah, kids.
I posted a link, but it basically just goes to the Fortnite website and he scans a QR code or something, and he gets to download it directly from them instead.
Okay.
Yeah, the reason why it's not there is because Apple and Google are unhappy campers with them or something.
Whatever. Okay. Anything else? Like, basically, again, I mean, I'm not trying to keep it like wishy-washy and just say you're all doing a great job. Just keep doing keep doing what you do. I want you to focus a little bit here, right? We've all got access to the Bloomberg market concepts. I want people to seriously be like going through things, even if you're not getting the passing grade. I at least will be showing you're making progress towards completing it, and that'll still be good enough for me. But you really should be trying to pass it because you've obviously got lots of benefits if you pass it. And let's not make it October 20th. Let's make it the week after that. So let's make it the 27th.
Okay. That's better.
Gives everyone a little bit more time. Exactly. Because I don't even think I myself could meet that deadline. So if I can't meet the deadline, there's no reason why I should force everyone else to meet that deadline.
Makes sense.
Okay.
I'll be sending you your invoice.
Yeah, good. Okay, Levi, good luck at your job interview on Thursday. Anyone else have a job interview this week?
Got a master's program interview on Friday.
Master's for what program?
Linguistics at Manoa.
Oh. Who's that with? Who's the interview with?
Dr. Perez Croker.
Is it on? It's not on campus, all right? It's Zoom.
No, it's Zoom.
Okay. Interesting.
I wish it was in person, but
yeah.
All right. See you later, everyone. I'll be heading out.
Okay. See you all. Okay.
Oh.
Bye. I will log off last. So if you have questions for me, ask me.
Where's Levi interviewing? Shining.
What was it? Acuity. Acuity.
Acuity LLP.
What was that, Levi?
Acuity LLP.
Okay.
Is it just for? Is that? But this isn't for an internship. This is for a legit job, right? See you, Michael.
No, this is for internship because for my capstone, I did internship.
Is that required for your capstone?
My capstone's next semester. I'll be taking it by itself, so I'll just be working.
But that's great news. That means you're going to be around for another semester, huh?
Yeah.
When did that change?
It changed because COVID totally cock-blocked me from getting anything. Super hard. Super hard. I was about to plug away everything around February because that's when Accounting Club posted all their job openings.
And
then
in the question and answer sessions, remember trivia night for accounting? You were the top placer.
Yes, I even beat Land Grant, but don't tell her that. I think she'll be mad.
Yeah.
But so I went to go do it. Then all of a sudden, boom, lockdown, and it was the big one, the 3-month one. So everyone's working from home. And then Marinelli said you can't be working from home. And you can't do you can't do paperwork. It won't count. But unfortunately, it's all they're offering, right?
Why has Marinelli got to be like that? Why can't? I mean, shouldn't they be working to have people graduate? Why are they
Exactly. So I asked her what are we gonna do in that situation, right? And she said, oh, we don't know. It's up to the university. They'll have to figure a way out. At this moment, we don't know, kind of thing. The roundabout, mumbo jumbo. So. That kind of put a stopper, and eventually I came to the realization after stressing out and realizing the window was closing that hey, maybe actually it might work out for me anyway, because imagine me doing what I'm doing now, and then I'm also working an internship and at the factory at the same time. Yeah. I probably have a full head of white hair by the end of this.
Wow, definitely.
So
what about
like,
Kristen though? Is she taking her exam, her CFA or CPA exam soon?
yeah, next week.
Is she nervous?
Yes. Yeah, I would be too. That's
Yeah.
like the final boss exam right there.
Well,
But is
what
she
was that
feeling?
Levi?
The CPA exam.
Is she feeling confident though, or?
I think it's nervousness. I think it's mostly nervousness. Yeah.